On the Senate floor Thursday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell continued to blame Democratic policies for high inflation. Inflation has been a staple of McConnell's Senate floor speeches in recent weeks, and high prices remain central to Republicans' messaging as midterms approach in November. McConnell then pivoted to hold Democrats responsible for a host of hot-button issues, saying, quote, "Democrats' reckless policies have stuck the American people with an inflation crisis, a border crisis, a violent crime crisis, and an energy crisis."
The Republican leader.
I ask consent that further proceedings on the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
First this morning, I was deeply saddened to learn that we lost a dedicated and long-serving member of the Senate family this week. Officer William Thomas of the United States Capitol Police passed away after a battle with cancer. He was only 38 years young. Officer Thomas joined the force nearly 14 years ago. He quickly became a familiar face to many of the senators and staff serving on this side of the Capitol. By all accounts, his dedication, his professionalism, and his service in the Senate Division and most recently in the Communications Division were a credit to the entire department and to our institution. The loss of Officer Thomas leaves a hole in the close-knit community of brave men and women who keep us safe here at the Capitol. The entire Senate joins Officer Thomas's brother Vincent, as well as his brothers and sisters here in uniform, in mourning this tragic loss. Now, on an entirely different matter, the painful story of Washington Democrats' runaway inflation is playing out in hardworking communities all across our country. We learned last week that food inflation is now at the highest level since 1979. For folks in the Phoenix metro area, where inflation already outpaces the national average, that's meant a 3% inflation tax on food in just the last 2 months. According to one Arizona shopper, it's almost $300. I used to get the same groceries like around $150 before. Across the border in Nevada, the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported recently how local coffee shops are caught between eating higher costs for supplies and chasing their customers away with higher prices. The owner of one shop says that as everything from coffee, beans to cups gets more expensive, they've had to raise prices by about 10%. We've done our best not to pass this on to our customers because we do understand that we're all in the same boat together. The Colorado Sun spoke with one new resident of Westminster who said he had moved towns to, quote, lower the impact of an 18% rent increase. He's cut back on cable, driving, and buying meat at the grocery store. In Washington State, the Seattle Times is reporting that 4 in 10 area renters are now spending more than 30% of their paychecks on rent. When one resident learned her rent would be increasing nearly 10%, she said, quote, "I just wanted to cry. I'm barely making it. I'm just a senior citizen." Over in Georgia, the Augusta Press reports that local small businesses are still facing a rocky road. According to the owner of one power washing business in Evans, materials are getting more expensive and the potential clients are, quote, more hesitant to get any work done right now. And further north, with winter cold fast approaching, one resident of Manchester, New Hampshire, told the local news that heating oil subsidies were appreciated, but I feel like it's a Band-Aid after they've stabbed you. So these are the real-world consequences of Washington Democrats' inflation. Every corner of every state is writing its own painful story. But the ones I just mentioned have something unfortunate in common. Every resident of Arizona, Washington, Nevada, New Hampshire, Colorado, and Georgia is represented by 2 senators each who cast the deciding vote to set this inflation in motion. If just one single senator, just one, from Georgia, Arizona, Colorado, New Hampshire, or Washington had refused to give their vote to President Biden's reckless spending, the working families and small business owners of these states would not be dealing with this much inflation, period. But every one of those state senators cast tie-breaking votes to bring on the worst inflation in 4 decades, and now every American is paying the price. Now, one final matter, Democrats' reckless policies have stuck the American people with an inflation crisis, a border crisis, a violent crime crisis, and an energy crisis. Today, this Democratic Senate majority is spending time on legislation that tackles none of these things. They aren't addressing any of the problems that keep moms and dads up at night. They aren't tackling any of the issues that are leaving small business owners unable to pay their bills or unsafe in inner city locations, or both. They aren't spending 10 seconds of the Senate's time exploring the disconnect between Vice President Harris, who says we have a secure border, and the illegal immigrant who told a reporter last week, quote, "Everybody believes the border is open. We see it on the news that everybody comes in illegally, so we do the same." So the Democrats don't want to spend time on the people's business today. They'd rather spend time on their business, something we've seen time and time again over the last 2 years. Today's liberal pet priority is a piece of legislation designed to give unelected federal bureaucrats vastly more power over private citizens' First Amendment rights and political activism, and to strip privacy away from Americans who speak out about politics in their private lives. More power for Washington, D.C. censors, less privacy for private citizens, and throw some ice on the First Amendment. That's what our colleagues across the aisle have made their top priority for the day. So I'd have to say, Madam President, it's a novel response to flagging poll numbers in public outcry. Instead of trying to clean up the border mess, the crime mess, or the inflation mess, my Democrat colleagues have decided it would be easier just to erode the American people's right to complain about it in the first place. The legislation I'm speaking about itself is an insult to the First Amendment, and the notion that it gets Senate floor time today above everything else is truly an insult to the working people of this country. So I would urge all my colleagues on both sides to stand with the Constitution, stand with our citizens who deserve better, and vote no.